Have you ever stumbled upon a town that felt like it was plucked straight from a storybook? Picture-perfect houses, streets adorned with vibrant banners, and the aroma of freshly baked pies wafting through the air. But what if this idyllic facade hid a secret so dark, so unsettling, that it could curdle the sweetest apple pie? Welcome to Apple Creek, where beneath the veneer of joyous festivities lurks a truth more sinister than anyone could imagine. Rudra, a freelance journalist with a penchant for the peculiar, found himself drawn to Apple Creek's vibrant energy. The town, nestled in a picturesque valley, was known for its warm-hearted people and colorful festivals. Rudra had heard whispers of the town's unique charm and decided it was the perfect place to uncover a story that would captivate his readers. The annual Founders' Day celebration was in full swing, a kaleidoscope of music, laughter, and the tantalizing aroma of barbecued treats. Stalls lined the streets, offering everything from handmade crafts to delicious local delicacies. Children ran around with painted faces, and the air was filled with the sounds of joy and celebration. As he mingled with the townsfolk, a peculiar name echoed through the air: Atul. Rudra's curiosity was piqued. He noticed that every conversation seemed to circle back to this enigmatic figure. Who was Atul, and why did he hold such a significant place in the hearts of the townspeople? Who was this Atul, and why was everyone celebrating him with such fervor? Rudra observed posters and banners with Atul's image, and the townsfolk spoke of him with a mix of reverence and mystery. It was clear that Atul was no ordinary man in Apple Creek. Rudra, ever the curious soul, decided to investigate. He spent hours in the local library, poring over old newspapers and town records. He interviewed the townsfolk, each with their own version of Atul's story. Some described him as a hero, while others hinted at a darker past. He learned that Atul, a seemingly ordinary man, was revered as the town's savior. According to the stories, Atul had once saved the town from a great disaster. His bravery and selflessness had earned him a place of honor in the community, but there was more to the story than met the eye. But a disquieting piece of information hung in the air, whispered rather than proclaimed. Atul had taken a life. The townsfolk spoke of it in hushed tones, as if afraid to tarnish the image of their hero. Rudra knew he had to dig deeper to uncover the truth behind this enigmatic figure and the secrets that Apple Creek held. The more Rudra learned about Atul, the deeper the mystery became. It was as if every piece of information he uncovered only added layers to the enigma. Atul was not just an ordinary man. He was a figure shrouded in intrigue and contradiction. Atul, it seemed, had killed a man decades ago. This revelation was shocking, but what was even more perplexing was the town's reaction to this dark chapter in their history. Yet instead of condemnation, he was met with admiration, even adoration. The townspeople's reaction was not one of fear or anger, but of respect, and almost celebratory reverence. The townspeople spoke of his deed with a strange mix of reverence and relief, their smiles strained, their eyes holding a shared secret. It was as if they were all part of a silent agreement, a pact that bound them together in their collective memory of the event. Rudra, his journalistic instincts piqued, knew there was more to this story than met the eye. He felt a compelling need to dig deeper, to uncover the truth that lay beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic town. He spent his days chatting with the locals, piecing together fragments of the past. Each conversation revealed a new layer, a new perspective, and slowly the puzzle began to take shape. He discovered that Atul's victim had been a wealthy businessman, notorious for his ruthlessness. This man was not just any victim, he was a figure of power and influence, someone who had left a significant mark on the town. The man had been bleeding the town dry, driving its people to desperation. His actions had caused widespread suffering, and the town had been on the brink of collapse. Atul's act, though violent, had been seen as a necessary evil, a desperate measure to save the community from further ruin. As Rudra delved deeper, he found old letters and documents that painted a picture of a town in turmoil. The more he read, the more he understood the gravity of the situation that had led to the fateful event. The town had come together in the aftermath, rebuilding and healing from the wounds inflicted by the businessman's greed. Atul's actions, though controversial, had sparked a sense of unity and resilience among the townspeople. Rudra realized that the story of Atul was not just about a single act of violence, but about the strength and spirit of a community that had faced adversity and emerged stronger. It was a story that needed to be told, a story of courage, sacrifice, and the complex nature of justice. An old woman, her eyes clouded with time but sharp with memory, told Rudra about the pact. Years ago, when the town had been on the brink of ruin, a group of desperate townspeople had made a dark bargain. They would protect Atul, shielding him from the law, in exchange for his act of salvation. It was a pact made in desperation, a choice between two evils. Section 5. The Pact's Grim Genesis. Rudra delved further, unearthing the desperation that had gripped Apple Creek all those years ago. The town, once a thriving community, had been brought to its knees by a series of unfortunate events. The historian's research revealed a tapestry of sorrow and struggle, woven into the very fabric of the town's history. The businessman, a predator in a pinstripe suit, had systematically exploited the town, leaving behind shattered dreams and empty pockets. His influence was pervasive, his reach extending into every corner of Apple Creek. He promised prosperity but delivered only despair, manipulating the townsfolk with false hopes and empty promises. Families were torn apart, their homes and livelihoods snatched away. The once tight-knit community found itself fractured, with neighbors turning against each other in their desperation. The sight of moving trucks and for sale signs became all too common, a grim reminder of the town's decline. The town, once vibrant, had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. Empty streets and closed shops painted a bleak picture of what had once been a bustling hub of activity. Neglected buildings stood as silent witnesses to the town's fall from grace, their decaying facades telling a story of lost hope and broken dreams. It was in this crucible of despair that the pact had been forged. The townspeople, driven by a shared sense of desperation, came together in a dimly lit room. Their faces were etched with worry, but their eyes held a glimmer of determination. They knew that they had to take matters into their own hands if they were to have any hope of saving their town. Atul, a quiet man driven to the edge, had become their unlikely savior. He was not a leader by nature, but the circumstances had thrust him into the role. His determination and quiet strength inspired those around him, giving them the courage to stand up against the forces that had brought them to their knees. He had silenced the predator, his act a desperate plea for survival, a rebellion against injustice. The confrontation was swift and decisive, a moment of reckoning that would be etched into the town's memory. The arrest that followed was a turning point, a symbol of the town's resilience and their refusal to be broken. The townspeople, bound by their shared secret, had kept their word. They had protected Atul, weaving a narrative of heroism around his act of violence. The festival, a yearly spectacle of forced gaiety, was their way of atoning for their complicity, a constant reminder of the price they had paid for their survival. Rudra watched as children, their faces painted with innocent joy, ran through the streets, oblivious to the darkness that stained their town's history. He saw the guilt and fear etched on the faces of the elders, their smiles a brittle mask. Rudra, though initially drawn by curiosity, found himself grappling with the weight of the town's secret. Was it possible to justify a wrong with a right? Could a town built on a foundation of deceit ever truly find peace? As the festivities reached their peak, Rudra knew he couldn't leave without confronting Atul, the man at the heart of this moral quagmire. He found Atul sitting alone, a solitary figure amidst the revelry. The years had aged him, his shoulders stooped under the weight of his actions. When Rudra revealed that he knew the truth, Atul merely nodded, his eyes filled with a weary resignation. "It was a different time," Atul said, his voice raspy with age. "We did what we had to do to survive." He spoke of the town's transformation, how the fear had given way to hope, how the people had rebuilt their lives from the ashes of despair. But the guilt, he confessed, that never goes away. Rudra listened, understanding dawning in his heart. The pact, born out of desperation, had cast a long shadow over Apple Creek, but it had also given birth to a resilient community, bound by shared sacrifice and a yearning for redemption. As the festival drew to a close, Rudra felt a sense of closure. The truth, though dark and unsettling, had been brought to light. The people of Apple Creek, haunted by their past, were learning to forgive themselves, to find solace in the fragile hope of a brighter future. The story of Apple Creek was a stark reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit, in its flawed and complex nature, finds a way to endure. It was a story Rudra knew he had to tell, not with judgment, but with empathy and understanding.